It does not run. It has not moved in 3 years. The tires are flat, the chain is rusted, and every few months someone offers to buy it and you say no without even thinking about it. You do not even consider it. The answer is automatic, instant, like someone asked if you would sell your name. And if they push, if they say, "I will give you a fair price," you will say something like, "It is not for sale," or "I'm going to fix it up someday," or "It has sentimental value." But none of those are the real reason. The real reason is something you have probably never put into words, because the real reason is not about the motorcycle at all. It's about who you were when you got it and who you became because of it. Your first motorcycle is not your first motorcycle. It's a psychological anchor, a fixed point in your identity that your brain refuses to let go of. And understanding why changes the way you think about memory, identity, and why certain objects become untouchable. Psychologists have a concept called the extended self. It was proposed by a researcher named Russell Belk, and the idea is simple but powerful. The things you own are not just things, they become part of who you are. Your brain does not draw a clean line between you and your possessions. It blurs the boundary. And certain objects, the ones tied to major life transitions, cross that line completely. They stop being things you have and start being things you are. Your first motorcycle is one of those objects. Think about what it represented when you got it. It was not just transportation. It was a decision, a statement, a risk that most people around you did not understand and probably did not support. Getting that motorcycle meant something. It meant you were willing to do something that scared you, that you trusted yourself enough to learn something dangerous, that you chose a version of your life that was less safe but more alive. That is not a purchase, that is an identity event, and your brain treats it differently than every other thing you have ever bought. Neuroscientists who study memory and emotion have found that experiences tied to strong identity shifts are encoded differently in the brain. They are stored with more detail, more emotional weight, and more resistance to being forgotten or overwritten. Your brain flags them as important, not important like a work deadline, important like your own name, important like a core belief, something that defines the structure of who you are. That is why you remember everything about your first motorcycle. The color, the sound, the way it smelled when the engine was warm, the exact moment you first rolled the throttle and felt it pull, the first time you stalled it, the first time you dropped it, the first time you rode it in the rain and thought you were going to die and then realized you were not and felt invincible. These memories are not stored in the same place as your memories of what you had for lunch last Tuesday. They are stored in the emotional core of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus, wrapped in layers of sensory detail and personal meaning. They are almost impossible to erase, and the motorcycle is the physical object that unlocks all of them. This is why selling it feels wrong. Not expensive wrong, not inconvenient wrong. Wrong in the way that losing a part of your history feels wrong. Because your brain has wired the motorcycle into your autobiographical memory. It is not a thing in your garage, it is a chapter in your story. And selling it would feel like tearing a page out of a book you are still reading. There is another layer to this. Psychologists who study attachment and loss have found that people experience genuine grief when they lose objects tied to identity transitions. Not sadness, grief. The same category of emotion you feel when you lose a relationship or a phase of your life that you can never go back to. The motorcycle represents a version of you that existed at a specific time, in a specific place, with a specific set of fears and hopes and uncertainties. Letting go of the motorcycle feels like letting go of that version of you. And here's the part that makes it even more interesting. You know the motorcycle is not practical. You know it needs work. You know you will probably never actually fix it up. You know all of this logically, and you still cannot do it. Because this is not a logical decision. This is an emotional one. And emotional decisions tied to identity do not follow logic. They follow attachment. Some riders try to explain it by saying the motorcycle has memories. And that is true, but it's deeper than that. The motorcycle doesn't just have memories. It is a memory. It is the physical form of a moment in your life when you changed, when you went from someone who thought about riding to someone who rides. That transition is one of the most significant identity shifts a person can make because it involves voluntarily choosing risk, independence, and a way of experiencing the world that most people reject. Your brain knows this. Even if you have never thought about it consciously, your brain has categorized that motorcycle as irreplaceable, not because of the metal and rubber, because of what the metal and rubber represent. And no amount of money can replace a representation of who you became. This is also why your second motorcycle, your third, your fifth, no matter how much better they are, never feel the same. They are better machines, faster, smoother, more comfortable, more capable. But they are not anchors. They are upgrades. The first one was not an upgrade. The first one was a beginning. And beginnings have a psychological weight that nothing else can match. You can buy a motorcycle that costs 10 times more. You can ride across continents on machines that make your first one look like a toy. And you will still walk into your garage, look at that rusty, dusty, flat-tired machine in the corner, and feel something that none of the others give you. Not excitement, not admiration, recognition. The feeling of seeing something that knows who you were before anyone else did. There's a reason that the riders who have been at this the longest are usually the ones with the most motorcycles they refuse to sell. It is not hoarding, it is not sentimentality. It is the brain doing what it was designed to do, holding on to the markers of who you became, protecting the anchors that keep your identity stable in a world that is constantly trying to shift it. So, if you have a motorcycle sitting in your garage that doesn't run, that you have not touched in years, that everyone tells you to just sell already, now you know why you cannot. It is not stubbornness, it is not irrationality, it is your brain protecting something it considers part of you. And it is right. That motorcycle is not a machine, it is a mirror. And every time you look at it, you do not see metal. You see the person who decided, against all the reasonable advice in the world, to throw a leg over something dangerous and ride. That person is worth keeping, and so is the motorcycle. If you still have your first one, drop the year and model in the comments. And if you sold it, tell us whether you regret it. We already know the answer, but say it anyway.